Welcome, Royston, to today's podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I just wanted to, first of all, ask you to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, no, pleasure to be here, Rob, and thanks for the invitation. My name is Royston Howell. I am the business owner of Escape Currencies. We've been running since October 2020. I've been working in the industry now for 18 years now. But started up Escape Currencies in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic.
Oh my gosh, that must have been quite a difficult time.
Yes, it was. It was. When I've reflected on it from my own personal experiences, yeah, it was a difficult time. But then when I kind of remember, I wasn't the only person going through difficulties.
True. It was challenging for everyone.
People going through far more challenging difficulties than sort of just losing their job.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it as that was a bit of not a blessing, but as tough as the pandemic was in that period in 2020, it led me to this part of my journey, which I couldn't be more thankful for. So out of a terrible situation came this opportunity, which, 2.5 years later, I'm loving it. So
very good. So tell me a little bit more about what Escape Currencies does.
Yeah, so Escape Currencies, we work in foreign currency exchange, and a lot of people will get confused sometimes thinking, right, okay, are you doing holiday money? Are you working in stocks and shares and, buying and selling currencies for a profit? And we don't do either of those two. So what we do, we help clients who need to move money abroad to make or receive a payment in a foreign currency. And we offer an alternative service to the traditional high street bank, where predominantly people who use us, they'll come to us because they want to see if they can get a better rate of exchange than what has been offered at their high street bank or maybe another banking institute. But they'll also find the additional benefits with us where they get different buying options, and they've actually got someone who's going to manage the process of the transaction rather than just say, okay, well, this is the rate of exchange today. Do you want to do it? Yes, no. If not, come back tomorrow or next week when you need to do the transaction. We'll actually build up a relationship with the client to find out exactly, what their requirements are. Sometimes it may just be a one-off requirement. Sometimes it's an ongoing requirement. Sometimes they've got a number of payments leading up to a big purchase they're making. So we'll understand exactly what the client's needs are, and then we can then service that client's needs depending on how much they need us or how little they need us. So
Got it.
It's about giving them more of an all-round service and being a lot more informative. We like to think we're specialists in our field. Being specialists in our field, we want to offer, go above and beyond, just rather than just saying, right, okay, this is the product, take it, it's off the shelf.
Yeah.
We actually like to give more of an all-rounded service, which is what clients value at the end of the day, as much as saving money. They want to save money, but they want to make sure they're actually being looked after and getting that specialist service.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me a little bit about kind of the typical saving that maybe a client might make off of the back of using your service.
Typically, most people, first and foremost, their first option to do a transfer abroad would be to go to the high street bank, because that's one option which we don't have. When we're holding our funds, we've got to hold it in our bank. We've got choices of a number of different banks, but we've got to hold the money in our bank. So when we need to move it to another bank, whether it be in the UK or outside of the UK, we'll just use our bank to service that transaction. So with doing a foreign exchange transaction with the bank, we've had clients who have saved up to 5% against their high street bank.
So tell me, what's a kind of typical transaction?
So a typical transaction with our clients, we can be looking from 100,000 up into £1 million on a transaction, depending on what their needs are. So Obviously, the more which the client is moving, then that gives us more leverage to actually save them even more money. Which for us is, if I can turn around to a client and say, okay, well, how do you have done the transfer if you weren't using our services? Okay, well, what rate were your bank offering you? Well, we've offered you this much. This is how much you've saved.
Right.
And when a client is actually then being able to see, okay, well, actually, I've saved £7,000 doing the transaction just for your services.
Yeah.
£7,000 plus. I've had someone who's actually kept me up to date with the currency market movements.
Mm-hmm.
You've given me a call to say, right, okay, the Bank of England have increased interest rates today and the exchange rates have gone in my favour. That, again, they wouldn't have got that from their bank.
Right.
So it's given those added services to the client, which they're going to benefit from. Because if you've got a transfer to do, some clients will, with the technology we have now, we've got so much information in the palm of their hand. So we can go online and check exchange rates. But still, what people don't realise is how quickly things do move. So if you're looking at exchange rate at 9 o'clock in the morning and you're quoting for a transaction and you think, right, okay, well, my £100,000 is going to buy me this amount of euros at this exchange rate, but I'll do it I'll do it on my lunch break. You're assuming on your lunch break, that rate of exchange you got in the morning is going to be the same.
Yes.
Like any other product that we're buying, if you go to the garage to look at a car and they say, right, okay, this car is going to cost you £20,000. Okay, I'll come back and we'll seal the deal at lunch. You don't expect to come back and the car dealer say, okay, well, that's gone up by another £2,000.
Yeah.
With exchange rates, that can easily happen.
Wow.
Especially by the time we get to the afternoon, because in the morning we have so much data coming out between 7 a.m. and 1:30 when the US market's open. So much can change very quickly.
Right.
Now, if we understand that our clients are doing their everyday jobs, they're out and about, they're doing whatever, they haven't got time to keep an eye on the market. My job is currency. So that's what I do. That's what kind of fascinates me, is the movements of the currency market. So
amazing.
If I can see something is happening that's going to change how much my client is going to get back for their currency, sometimes it's going to be more, sometimes it's going to be less. It's important for me to make that call or send that email just to say, since we spoke, this has happened. You're getting a few more euros than we were looking at. Or sometimes I have to be the bearer of the bad news and say, well, you were getting this much when we spoke earlier. Now you're getting a little bit less.
Yeah.
Can you afford to continue to take that risk? Now,
yes.
I don't have a crystal ball, so I will never say, and no currency broker should say to their client, it's going to get better or worse in the afternoon. But what we can do is at least give them that information so they know.
In a very timely way as well.
In a timely way. It's important. And if I'm speaking to a client on Monday and they say, well, they've got the rest of this week to get the transaction done, and then I don't speak to them, and on Friday afternoon they give me a call, say, right, okay, well, let's get it done now. And I say, oh, should have done it on Wednesday afternoon. The rate was really good then.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I should have. But
yes.
why didn't you, my currency specialist, give me a call and let me know?
Yeah.
I would have done the transaction on Wednesday.
And maybe you can even kind of, see some of the patterns as well, because if it looks like it's been going up relatively recently, then at some point it's going to have to drop, right?
Yeah. So, we'll always give clients as much information as possible so they can make the best informed decision. And, no one's ever going to get it spot on correct because we don't know when it's hit its peak until it's dropped. And at that point, it's too late. Yeah. But what I can do is obviously look at the charts and say, well, okay, well, this is the highest it's been in 11 months. That's quite a good. Yeah. That's quite a good.
You should probably do it now.
This is the best we've seen in 2023. When you were looking at this transaction 2 weeks ago, you would have probably been happy at what we're looking at now. So just sometimes you have to create a scenario for the client to be able to visualize and think, right, okay, well, this is a good or maybe a bad time to do the transaction, and just give them as much information as possible so they can make the best decision rather than just leaving it down to fate and good luck, or saying, right, okay, if you're using the bank, you just turn up to your bank or you give them a call and say, right, I need to do the transaction today, and whatever rate of exchange they're offering, they will give you. And I can imagine most people, if they speak to their bank, and if you go into your local branch and you ask someone over the counter what the rate of exchange is, they'll get that information for you. If you ask them how good or bad it is, they may give you a vague view on it. if you ask them, okay, what it's affecting the market, what's happening, what data have we got out, which may,
no chance.
You're not going to get that information because, and that's not me picking fault at the banks. That's just not what they're trained to do.
Yes.
You know, that they do have people very, very high up in their system who can offer that information, but they're not looking after the people like you and I who have just, you know, even if we're, you know, all of a sudden we're buying a property in Spain, we're moving our life savings across, you know, we've got a large transaction to make. They won't have the people in the branch who can facilitate and offer you that help and advice in regards to what the market's doing. And that's, you know, why we are specialists. You know, all we do is foreign currency. So I will geek out as much as possible and fill myself with more information that anyone needs to know. And then I can drip feed that to my clients as and when it's appropriate, really.
Brilliant. So it's really interesting hearing you talk about this because, like you said, you know, the kind of typical things that a customer would potentially do when they go into a high street bank, they're not going to get the level of service that they're ever going to get when, you know, if they came to somebody like you, for example. So, you know, that's a little bit about the business and how it works. And I'm guessing what people are probably asking the question, I mean, the sums that are involved are obviously significant. You know, we're not talking £500 moving, etc., that type of thing. What I think people might want to know is, like, you know, and we understand a little bit about what you're doing, but how are you doing it as well? Like, as in, what's the trade-off and benefit? And
I think a lot of people sometimes think, okay, well, how are you able to make these savings to the bank? What are we doing differently to the banks? You know, what is our magic trick? And quite simply, there isn't one. You know, there's no magic trick. We're not doing anything differently. We actually buy our currency through the bank. So, and that's, you know, one reason I can't sit here and sort of slay the banks and say the banks are not doing this or that. They just sell their product in a different way to what we do. And they make huge quantities of profit, which is, you know, like many of these big institutes do, they make huge sums of profit. For us, we just make a lot less money per transaction than the banks do. You could simplify it by saying we don't have the overheads, which the banks do. No, we don't. But because of, I think in the 18 years I've been doing this, obviously, you know, our main competition has always been the banks. And in the 18 years, I've seen little to no change in attitudes from the banks to say, right, okay, they want to compete with this industry, with this currency specialist industry, which has grown massively in the last 18 years. So the industry has grown, continued to grow. There's more and more companies coming out doing what I'm doing. But the banks have shown little to no interest to say, okay, well, we want to, you know, these companies are getting too much of the business. Two reasons why they're not doing it. One, because we're all still using these banks to service, you know, to actually buy and sell our currencies. So they're still getting a bit of the pie. And also because I believe probably no more than, I don't think we're even at 7 out of 10 clients are still using the bank. It's probably still 8 to 9 out of 10 clients who are still using the bank. So if you're any type of business and you've got a lion's share of the market, you are pricing yourself a lot more profitable than your competitors who are getting 10 or 20%. What interest do you have to compete with that part of the market?
Exactly.
Listen,
you're not, you know, not even touching anywhere near there. No. It's not even registering, you know, potentially on their radar.
Because, you know, they will have so many people who need to make a transfer abroad and will just go online, especially now we have all these facilities online. We'll just go online and send the payment. You know, maybe they don't have time to look at alternatives. They don't realize there's an alternative. So they will do these transactions. Sometimes they can be, a lot of the times there will be small transactions, but sometimes there will be large sums of money which people are moving. And for them, they've got the opportunity to obviously make a sizable profit on these transactions. So this little for the bank there's little reason for the bank to really want to compete with us. With ourselves, we're buying. We're like any wholesaler. We buy at one price, we sell at another price. Now, I know if a client is speaking to a bank or another one of our competitors, I know we're all buying at the same. We're buying from the same price. They may be the difference that someone could be buying at is so tiny that it's not even worth considering a disadvantage or an advantage. So we're generally all buying at the same price. So it then just comes down to how much we are prepared to make on the transaction. And the less we make, the more the client saves. And that's why I always explain to any client I'm dealing with, whether it be a business or an individual, this potential saving that you can make using our services. If you don't use our services, what it's going to cost you more is going to your bank. It's going
because already they're going to be charging at a higher price anyway. More than likely,
that money is simply going to your bank. You're not going to get anything different. Your euro is not going to arrive in any better fashion than it will do going through us, and it will go with the bank. It's just simply the bank are making a bigger, can be making a bigger profit on the transaction if the rate of exchange they're offering is lesser than what we're offering. So
got it.
And that's what it comes down to. We're like any wholesaler. We buy at one price, we set at another price. It's just the difference between the buy and the sell. And if you can use a service, like Escape Currencies, who are going to make less profit on the transaction, and as well as given a more rounded service, a client is going to benefit massively from that, because hopefully they're going to time their transfer better for them, and also they're going to get a rate of exchange which is going to either deliver them more currency. So if they've got euros and they've got pounds and they're buying euros, if they're getting a better rate of exchange, that's going to get them more euros. Or they may have a set amount of euros which they need to purchase. So say 100,000 euros. If we can give them a better exchange rate, it's going to cost them less pounds. So again, that's more pounds in your bank account. So
sure. So it goes both ways, kind of thing.
It goes both ways. Right. It goes both ways. So I had a client this week which we signed up, and his business. He contacted me. I know him through networking, and he said, "Oh, I'm not sure if you'd be able to help me actually, but we receive income in euros from our client, and we just exchange that through our bank." And I said, "Yeah, no, we can definitely do that." So I said, "When you do the transfer, how do you do it?" And he said, "Oh, he just does an inter-account transfer from his euro account to his pound sterling account." I said, "Yeah, we can certainly help you with that." So we got him set up with a trading facility with ourselves. And then we were setting up the transaction. We've now got an online platform, so clients can, they've got the option of picking up the phone and speaking to me and asking me as many questions as they want in regards to what the rate movement is. Or they can just log online and do the transaction and get a quote themselves, and get it all completed online. So without having to use me, which can be a benefit to clients sometimes if they're busy, if they're doing stuff out of hours and they just want to quickly get it done. But on this first transaction, I always advise the client, let's go for it over the phone.
Sure.
So you know exactly what you're doing. If you've got any questions, you can ask me. You don't have to go back to the questions and answer page and try and work it out yourself. So I always want to make sure clients are gonna I can hold their hands through the process, as simple as it is. I just want to give them that level of service,
and it is peace of mind at the end of the day, because if you have somebody like yourself walking them through the transaction, especially for somebody who's doing it for the first time and significant amounts of money, then you want that.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, because we're not talking about someone moving 100 euros. We're talking about someone moving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds. So it's a high value transfer. This is money for his business, So it's important that, you know, he's going to have a feel of nervousness. He's doing something different. So, you know, we went through the transfer, and I explained to him, okay, well, this is what we're doing step by step. And then when we got to the bit when he was getting the quote, explained to him what the quote was, so how many pounds he was getting back for his euros. And then he said, oh, let me just see what my banker offered me. I said, yeah, please do. Let's, you know, so we can make a comparison. We can make a comparison. And he tried getting a quotation from his bank, but he couldn't get to that page on his online banking to do it. So he said, okay, you know what? I trust that you guys are going to give me a better rate of exchange than the bank. So I, yeah, and again, I appreciated that I'd earned that level of trust for him just to take my word that he was going to get a better rate of exchange. I was comfortable knowing that what I'd quoted him and what bank he was using, I was comfortable that I was going to be offering him a saving. But it was pleasing knowing that he was also confident that he was going to get a saving. So we completed the setup stage, and then 5 minutes later he gave me a call and he said, I've just transferred the funds over to you. He said, in the process I did manage to get a price from my bank, and he was able to, his bank would have offered him nearly £500 less for his 25,000 euros than we were offering him.
Right.
So he's instantly seen on this one transaction that he's
had an uplift.
His bank account is £500 richer than it would have been if he'd have done it how he normally does a transfer.
Yeah.
£500 richer. And, you know, he's doing these transfers. He only done half of what he normally does. So if he'd have done the full amount, that'd have been £1,000. He does this every month.
Right.
So already,
makes sense.
Already there, you know, we're expect, you know, he's saving himself for his business.
Sure.
That's an extra, you know, over 10 grand in his bank account.
That's good. That's amazing. I mean, like you said, if he did the full amount and then you times that up by 12, then we're at 12 grand a year. Yeah. So it's not to be sniffed at, really.
No, it's not to be sniffed at. And I think, and it's always at that point when I have to, you know, I can say, you know, I don't need to sell the service because I've always said the proof's in the pudding. You know, I can talk to my clients as much as possible. I also look, the proof's in the pudding. You know, let's get something set up. Let's make a comparison to what you're getting price wise, and if we can beat that, and we're offering you a saving, so we're either keeping more pounds in your bank account or buying you more euros, so you can, you know, if you're buying a property, you know, you buy more euros, then actually now maybe you can refurnish that property a bit more now, and get that 4-piece sofa rather than that 3-piece sofa that you were looking at, or you don't have to wait a year to get that swimming pool installed because you've got more. So, you know, so create all, you know, I can create all of these real life situations to say, okay, well now you've got more money to play with. You're keeping more of your money. So it's not even a case that they've earned it. No, they're just keeping more of their money. And that's, you know, you are keeping more of your money in your account rather than going to the bank. So once we've demonstrated that to the client, from there on, it's you know, it's an easier process for me because they've seen, you know, there's nothing better than saying to someone, you've got more money, you know, that doing this gives you more money. You know, that's exactly what they want to do. Awesome.
So we understand the what in terms of what it is that your company does, and we also understand a little bit about the how as well. So tell me a little bit more about you and how do you get started in this thing in the first place?
So my journey into this was wasn't planned. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, this is this. I can sit here and say this is an industry which I've loved working in for the last 18 years, but this wasn't part of the plan. Maybe like some people in their early 20s, I was kind of just drifting, doing different, I was always working. So I've always worked, but I was doing jobs which maybe I wasn't overly passionate about. You know,
I think that's all of us in our youth.
Yeah. And, you know, and some people even at a more grown up age, and I don't knock it because we've got to do that to pay the bills and put food on the table and look after our families. So there's nothing to be ashamed of if you are doing a job which you're not overly passionate about. You know, I've always been fortunate, and as you know, I've got, you know, my other job which I do and on the music side of things, which I'm passionate about. But I got into this, so I was doing a job in sales, and I was selling environmental treatment systems,
right?
Which is kind of the polite way of saying waste tanks.
Right.
Yeah. I'd normally say another word, but I'll keep it clean. So I'm selling environmental treatment systems for a company called Clargester. I was doing that for about 3 years. And I've always, previous to that, I worked in IT. So I was really enjoyed selling IT goods. I was working for PC World, and I enjoyed it because it was at a point when people were really starting to get PCs at home. So that market, you know, the internet was lifting off. So showing my age now, but I just enjoyed that ever-changing market. You know, every month, you know, there was a new break in technology. And, you know, it was ever-changing. And when I started working for Clargest and selling the treatment systems, it took probably 6 months to really learn the product, because there were technical aspects to it. And there were different levels of the product which I had to learn and understand. But once I learnt the product, I felt like I was just in autopilot. You know, and it wasn't something that I could ever get excited about. You know, no one, you know, for anyone who works in that company, you know, it's a massive, successful international company. But how excited can you really get about selling a product like that? Really, it's, you know, someone may tell me that you can do, and hopefully someone can, but I certainly, for me,
of course,
I couldn't. I felt like I was just I was just going into work in autopilot. I knew how to sell the product. You know, I had good contacts, and so it wasn't a horrible job, but I just knew I needed more. So as you do, you know, contacted a few agencies, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Friday afternoon, and I'd just come out the barbershop, and I'd got a phone call from a lady at the agency that I'd signed on to. She said, Royston, you know, we've got a job which, you know, we want to put you forward to. I was like, okay. I said, what is it? She said, oh, being a dealer. Like, okay, what do you mean being a dealer? Dealing in what? You know?
Yes.
I don't want to fall into certain stereotypes, but and she said, no, dealing currency, and I was like, okay,
right.
So I said, yeah, you know, why not? You know, I've always been, you know, even if I don't really understand something, I'll still go for it and then work it out later. And
that's an important lesson, I think, a lot for young people, is like not to necessarily just say no to things. Sometimes it's good when, I suppose, when you're in your 20s, just experiment. Right?
No, most definitely. And even, you know, so she gave me the details of the company, and you know, as you do a bit of research, and I went on their website, and if I'm honest, I probably still didn't really understand what I was getting into. I understand obviously currency exchange and what's not, but I just didn't understand how big that world was. Maybe because I've never been someone who's been in a financial position of needing to make transfers of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds. So I've never been in that kind of world. So it was alien to me. So went for the interview. And again, I remember it very vividly, and it was again a Friday, and I think so the next week I was going on holiday, so I was feeling a bit carefree. You know, I was like, right, got this interview. If I get it, great. If I don't care. You know, me and the lads will go. You know, we've got a holiday to look forward to. I think we're going to Mali or something for a week. So I've always been quite confident in interviews anyway, and kind of just presenting myself, selling myself. And had the interview, I remember, on my lunch break, and they called me back because then I mentioned I'd go on holidays. I was obviously quite excited about it. So they was like, right, you know, before you go on holiday, can you come back for a second interview. We want you to meet the director. So I went back for a second interview, and they offered me the job. And and even still looking back then, when they offered me the job, did I really know what I was getting into? Probably not.
No.
All I know, I'd been offered this job with, career-wise, it looked like a really positive move. I went into the job as a junior. Admittedly, I think there was 3 of us that they took on at the same time. And I was, out of the 3, I was the only one that sort of got through the probation. Still had ups and downs in the first year or so. But within probably 3 or 4 years, I was office manager. I was office manager. And it was a job which I enjoyed. I've always enjoyed just the managing my clients from all different types of backgrounds. I enjoyed the geekedness of just learning about the currency market. And that was something I'd never been exposed to. I'd never really had to pay any attention to economics. I had no interest in it. It was nothing that would really, outside of maybe hearing something on the news, I hadn't paid any real attention at 23, 24, unless you're studying economics, who really
it's going to do it.
It's so that side of things. But I loved it. Understanding the influence of politics and just all these world events, which was having an effect. And then we obviously got to 2008 with the banking crisis. I've gone through 2008 banking crisis. The recession, Brexit, the pandemic. So there's been so many events over the last 18 years, which has had a big effect on all of our lives.
Yes, for sure.
But certainly in regards to the currency market and the ever-changing world of that. So I was that's kind of my journey into it. Starting 18 years ago, getting that phone call at the barbershop.
That's an amazing story, actually. What really kind of, I suppose, resonates with me a little bit is the fact that you would, like you said, you probably had no cares in the world about world economics or geopolitics or all of that kind of like macroeconomic fluctuations, anything like that. And then all of a sudden now you're thrust into a world where it's completely like, that's your world now, right?
That's my world. And prior to coming into this world, if you'd have asked me anything about these things, about interest rates, politics outside of who's running our country, conversating with me on those topics, it would have been very, very limited. Now I'm the type of person where people are like, okay, Royston, give it a rest, because I can talk for hours about all of these things. Because yes, it fascinates me and it has a bearing effect on the job I do. And these are conversations which I have to carry over to when I'm speaking to my clients, because when a client wants to know, okay, what are the currency markets doing? Why is the pound crashed? I can't just say,
it just did.
It just did. I need to give a bit of backbone to that story. Now, sometimes people just want a snippet. And sometimes people want,
and they don't get the whole context.
Because sometimes they want, they want to really know, and and that's, again, for me, it's that variation. I love that variation where sometimes, I have some clients who I'll speak to and they'll call in, we'll go back and forth for 10 minutes to 30 minutes in regards to what's going on. Other clients, I've got a client who I deal with on a weekly basis, and he'll call and our conversations last about 30 to 40 seconds. He just says what he wants. I give him the rate of exchange, tell him how much it is. Okay, thanks, bye, send the money. And that's, it. Occasionally he may say, oh yeah, the rates are really good. Oh, the rates are really bad. Why is that? But, and I know once I start talking, he's like, okay, yeah, anyway, I'll wrap it up. Because he, he doesn't really, he's not that, he's interested, but he doesn't want to to go back and forth over it, where others do. So
Yeah.
again, it's just understanding, the differences in people and what their requirements are.
Sure.
And, and not, not providing too much jargon, because some people, again, I could talk about these different things, but it's going over their head. So
sure. Yeah.
you have to simplify it for others.
And I like that, because it shows that you're very, customer orientated and very much not only that, but also in tune with the market as well. So the mixture of the two kind of makes it even better as a value or the value proposition for your customers. Yeah.
I've always been about customer experience and the importance of a customer experience. And this is something I probably learned at a very young age. And probably from about 15, I worked in retail, and I had some really good retail experiences. And probably working at 2 stores in particular, Sports Division, which doesn't exist anymore, and PC World, which is just now Curry's. But certainly working at Curry's, I worked at the Aylesbury store when it first opened, so I was part of the opening of that store. But just the training which they gave you before opening the store was intense, but it certainly schooled me in the importance of looking after clients and just that whole experience. And it's something, even some of the skills I've learnt there have just
stuck with you.
Yeah, stuck with me and taken me through. But yeah, I'm always about customer experience, because if you give people bad customer experience, they will remember, and they will remember. It doesn't matter how you could have sold the product at the cheapest price, but if you give them bad service, it doesn't matter.
They're never coming back again.
They're never coming back. They're never coming back.
Yeah.
You give people a good service, as well as giving them value, then you're on for a win. But for me, it's, and that's, you will also gain that customer loyalty.
Yeah.
You'll gain that customer loyalty, which I think, I've had clients which I've looked after for 10 plus years that have followed me from 3 different companies. So that says to me, it's not just about the companies I'm working for. Actually, it's about my relationship which I've formed with those people. Why I've been able to have the confidence to pick up the phone and say, I am now working at such and such. I'm here if you need me. It's
and they follow you and they go with you.
It's held me in good stead, and I've looked after some amazing clients who have, who will pick up the phone and say, Royston, how's things? How can we help? How can we help you be more successful? Which for me is really touching, because these people who I've just formed a relationship with essentially over the phone, and they're keen to help me.
Good. So we talked about the what, the how, and also who as well, you customers. And we covered a little bit about your background and how you got started in it. So what do you do you talked a little bit about like passion and all that sort of stuff. What are the other things that are part of your world at the minute?
So I've been in this industry for 15 years, and probably for 20 plus years, my other passion has been music.
Oh, right.
So I've been DJing probably since the age of 16.
Really?
So it's more than 20 years. But
wow.
We'll stop the count at 20 years. So yeah, been DJing from a young age, and that's just always been my passion, and it's something which I've taken seriously. I've taken seriously, and again, that comes back to experience. The things I do on the DJing side, it's all about experience and making sure people have a great night out. So I've been fortunate that I've been able to, that is a completely different world to the currency stuff. But it's something again which I've just got a massive passion for, entertaining. I love music. I was brought up in in a household which loved music, which was always loud. So it was kind of natural progression for me. And that's just always been my release. If I, working in the currency market, you can have some really hectic, busy days and weeks. And getting to the end of the week, I still enjoy it, but there will be times I'm like, I just want Friday to come, like anyone. But then knowing I've got something else which I'm passionate about doing. I enjoy being a busy person, and I don't like, not having things to do. So for me, knowing that, right, okay, end of day, Fridays come, the weekend, and having that passion of being able to say, right, okay, am I DJing this weekend?
Got a gig,
I could be, sometimes it could be Friday, Saturday, or just Friday or Saturday. So that's something which, again, has kept me busy for the last, let's say 20 years.
We'll keep it at the 20 years.
We'll keep it at 20 years. But it's something which I definitely enjoy doing. Is just as important to me.
And I think that's really good to kind of say that you've got the day gig, and then you've got, I suppose, the weekend gig, but equally you're part of both worlds, but one almost is like, I suppose, complementary to the other one, because and I going back to my point earlier in regards to people doing jobs which maybe they're not passionate about, which is that is the reality of the world we live in. There are jobs out there that we need people to do, but people are not, they're not going to be people's passion. I am very fortunate, and I've made my own fortune, as in I've made my own luck in that case. But I'm very fortunate that I've got 2 jobs which I do actually love and enjoy doing. So it's not a case where I too often feel like, I've got to get up and sell some currency. I've got to get up and DJ. And actually, there are jobs when I'm doing it, I love doing. I do love doing it, and I think that certainly that helps my well-being. That helps my well-being. That's true, because I guess if you have just got one thing that you're focused on all the time, then you're never kind of like, I suppose, got something else to look forward to, really.
And I said, they're 2 totally different worlds, and they're not even worlds that I can really even cross over at. So they are 2 totally different worlds.
If you could mash the 2 up, that would be amazing.
It would do, but I haven't quite yet found an angle where I can kind of get in there. But they're 2 different worlds, and when I speak to people from each side, and whether I'm DJing and someone says, is this just, do you do anything else other than DJ? And I said, no, I've got my business running Skep Currency. Like, oh, wow. And it's the same, when I'm speaking to anyone, whether it be...
Well, I mean, just to cut you off there, right? The CEO of Goldman Sachs, he's a DJ.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So and it just, I think if you've got something where you are passionate about, if you've got a talent which you're passionate about doing, do it. And it's not about the money, it's not about the money. And I think I always say to people, the money will come. The money will come. If you've got something which you thoroughly enjoy, do it, because, that will lead you, that will provide you with the things which you need to be, happy and, mentally, mentally fit, really. So, I could have continued working for other companies, working for other currency companies, and that would have been the easier choice financially for me to make, especially in the midst of pandemic, when who knows what was going to happen next, really. We didn't know what the timeline of events was going to be. We were everyone was living day to day, so the safety thing was to just take a job working for someone else. But for me, I thought, well, things are bad, so why not take a chance now? Why not take a chance now? So that's what I did, really.
And that's admirable, man. Well done. So you heard this here. You're 20, experiment, and definitely the money will come.
It will come.
Yep.
It will come. It will come. If you work hard, if you've got a talent, whatever it is, whether it's playing the drum, whatever it is, if you've got the talent, the money will come. I'm not going to say that millions will come your way, but the money will come if that is your raw talent. Persist at it, and
Cool.
because you don't want to look back in years to come and think, oh, what if? Or see someone else on telly and think, oh, I could have done that. I was doing that. Or why didn't you do it then? That person had the balls to take a chance. That's the difference. That would be the difference between a lot of people's success and people who haven't done something, didn't take that chance, is because one person had the balls and guts to do it. I know we're all in different situations, and sometimes other people are better positioned to take those risks, but ultimately it's because someone's got the balls. I'm not sure if that's the politically correct thing to say now, but yes, someone's got the courage. Someone's got the courage to.
You could be politically incorrect. That's incorrect. That's another one. I love that. I really do, and I think that's really good advice to give to young people as well. Because I mean, young people like us. Shall I say that?
Yeah, definitely.
Or younger people than us, slightly younger people than us. So when it comes, so you've got your day thing, you've got side thing, but it's not even side hustle, it's your passion hustle, right? And then you've also got, you talked about your clients, customers, and everything like that. What else is happening in your world at the minute right now? Is there anything that's happening with all this AI stuff that keeps going on? Is it touching you in some shape or form?
It's not. And funny you touched on AI. AI has been something which I've not understood, really. Like a lot of people, it's just come out of nowhere, really. And even probably about a month ago, I put out a post on my social media just saying, someone tell me about AI. I want to know how I can utilize it to help me in my business. And I got a few people there was a clear difference. There was obviously a lot of people who didn't know anything about it, so they were like, I don't know, or just stayed silent. And there were people who did, but they were like, oh yeah, it's easy, just do this. And I'm like, already I don't know what, so when what kept on coming up was you just start off with chat GPT. Right, okay, well, how how and so many people, it's easy, but how? Like, where do I find this? Where do I find it? Obviously, and it was only, fun enough, on Wednesday when I was at a networking event, and again someone was having that conversation, and someone said, just go on ChatGPT, and I was like, where do I find it? I said, just type it.
Just Google it.
Just Google it. I was like, okay, obviously. And yesterday, I Googled it, and I started putting in stuff. So I put in, write me a blog on such and such, and then it gave me the results.
Voila.
So now I'm starting to see the
use cases.
How I can use it really. So there were some things which I was hoping it could do, and it isn't able to do yet, because the information is its database or its knowledge is up to September 2021. So I was hoping it could, I will regularly write content in regards to current market data. So I was just like, right, okay, well, rather than me sat there spending an hour trying to write, trying to put 500 words together, can this do it for me? But it couldn't. So it basically referred me back to the sites where I always get the data from anyway. So I think that probably will in years to come, because
it'll be real time, and and obviously, I don't know if you know that, but Google have got their own version as well. So they have something called Bard, which effectively is the same thing, but it's pretty much real time. So it's far more up to date.
So it's something which in one sense it scares me, because as useful as it is, I think I think it would be a shame that we all become so reliant on it that we're not using our own intelligence to write.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
To actually be creative.
This is true.
I think it's going to lessen everyone's, the general population's creativity, whether it's writing content and stuff like that, because AI can do it. That's the thing which I do fear, as much as I'll use it, because there'll be things where I'll be thinking, okay, you know what, this just saves me doing a job. But I don't feel as guilty because I've written the content 100 times, so many times before. Someone who's never written the content, so has never kind of built that level of intelligence, or critiqued these things, and they can just say, right, okay, this is what I want, write it for me. Where are we going to get our creativity from? Where are we going to test those boundaries? Are we just going to leave it to AI to basically tell us what to do? So that's the scary bit. But I do want to take it on board and use it as much as possible, really, because it's here now, and it's not going to go away. So
definitely. AI is only we've only probably just started to.
But this is phase one.
Absolutely.
This is phase one. Where will we be in 10 years' time?
It's going to be anyone's.
So
Royston, tell me a little bit about the cashless society that's always been touted around. When do you reckon that might happen?
It will happen. It won't happen for a few decades, I believe, because you've got to think we still got checks. Checks haven't been eradicated from society. It's not, I haven't received a check in a long time, but they're still out there. And there are still people, older generation, who like to write a check. And still some businesses who like to write a check. And the biggest country in the world are still obsessed with checks, America. So if that tells you if checks are still going to be in the ethos, cash probably still will be as well. Though you can just see, especially again since COVID, how much that has declined. And I think, look at my just day-to-day activities. How many times have I gone to a cash machine this year to withdraw cash? Maybe 2 or 3 times. Before that was a weekly scenario for all of us. We go to the cash point to withdraw cash. So I think cash will still be here, but it's a hard one for me. Cash is king, and this, for businesses, there's just so many advantages to having cash. And I saw an example recently. If I'm a business and I pay you £50, and then you pay another business £50, that £50 holds its value. If we're going for a banking system and pay £50, then you're paying the bank taking a transaction fee, then there's the tax, and then so that £50 quickly becomes, in maybe 10, 20 transactions, quickly becomes £45 or whatever. So this is just, and that's just getting swallowed up in charges. But if all those transactions with cash, then that £50 stays £50
to the value it holds.
To the value it holds. So, with no doubt about it, it is on the decline. But I would like to hope maybe another decade or two that cash will still be around, because there will still be people out there who want cash. Really, it just depends on how aggressively the banks want to. The banks want to sort of make it so convenient for us not to use it. Not to use it, really. But
what about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies?
So the whole digital currencies, again, that will happen, and we've seen with Bitcoins, for instance. I saw a really good analogy, really, and someone said, the value of Bitcoin, and it holds value for as long as people believe in it. it's like Father Christmas. While people believe in Father Christmas, it's valuable. Until you stop believing it, it's not valuable.
Kids, he exists. That's fine. Just letting you know.
So, with and that's been the challenge of the banks is with Bitcoins is because it hasn't been regulated. It's not regulated by any central bank. So that's why the banks are now trying to counteract it by bringing in their own sort of digital currencies. And again, they probably got their own agenda behind, their own secret agenda behind it and time frame. But again, I think in the next, maybe in another 10 years, we may see it come in a bit more. But I think there's still so many questions, is it going to be one digital currency worldwide? Or is it going to be digital currency, basically different foreign digital currencies?
Yes, got it. Yeah.
Which again then brings up, different problems, because what countries, is every country going to have the infrastructure to be trading in digital currencies? Is every country going to want to onboard digital currencies? So you're trying to change something which is going to affect the whole world, really. And, if cash still remains the most convenient, if cash in our banks, whether it be physical or as we know it by doing, cashless transactions, if that still remains the most convenient source for day-to-day living, for businesses trading, and for us just doing our day-to-day lives, that still remains the most convenient, then that will stay in place until, because a change only really knocks out the existing process if it becomes more convenient. It doesn't matter how. It's like mini discs. Everyone thought mini discs were going to become the next sort of digital player, but it really wasn't any more convenient than a CD player. So it kind of and I remember mini discs coming out and like these sizes, but it didn't really sell. It didn't really sell because it wasn't that. So it was only when MP3s came out, that's what really took over and sort of was the killer of CDs essentially. So I think it has to become a better convenience to what we're currently using for everyone, for the majority, before it actually becomes mainstream.
Got it. So Royston, we've probably touched on it a little bit about about your journey so far, but if you could give yourself some advice to your 20-year-old self, then what would that be?
Advice I would give myself would be to trust myself more, trust my ability more. As much as I've always gone and done things I wanted to do, sometimes there have been scenarios when I've kind of held myself back through just confidence and belief. So, and what I've always learned is sometimes when I've doubted myself in certain situations and end up doing it and thought, well, actually that wasn't bad. So just trust myself, take a chance. Always try and be calculated. So don't invest in something, which, don't do something when you've got zero talent to actually carry out that task. So you got to know your capabilities to a certain extent. But just trust yourself, and try and be as confident as possible. And when you don't, then never be afraid to ask questions from people, whether it be family, mentors, teachers. The world can be a horrible place, but actually the world can be a beautiful place where there are people out there who will help you. I think if someone sees that you want to, that you're trying, people out there will help you.
So, I mean, when you're saying about this, like, have you ever had any young person approach you for like, mentor, coach them or anything?
Yeah, like I've had people approach me, and I'm always keen to help others because I know I've had help in the past as well. So I've had people who have asked for help in whether it be business wise or even like the music side of things. But I've had disappointments where people talk a lot, but don't actually deliver. So which is been disappointing. I had a situation earlier this year actually, and someone came to me. They'd just left their current role and working in the same industry as me. So I said, look, come and work with me. I give you an opportunity. Your pay structure will be different to what you're on because obviously I'm a small business, but you've got a really good opportunity to actually do well. And I was confident that if you do well, you won't want to go back down the avenue you're on. And he talked a really, really good game, and he didn't even do a day's work. So I've never seen him. So it's that's the kind of disappointing end. But for me, I'll always give someone a chance, and I think you've just got to give yourself a chance. So if there's something you really want to do, then don't spend too much time deliberating, because a lot of time we can talk ourselves out of doing things. Sometimes just give it a go. Because what's the worst can happen, especially when you're young. When you're older, sometimes when you've got a bit more commitments and a bit more responsibilities, but certainly for young people, give it a go. So not everything is going to work out. Sometimes you have to do something to realize actually that's not what I want to do. When I left school, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. I can't think of anything worse now. And that's not, I think our nurses are amazing in this country, but for me personally, it's not a job that I had the real credentials and the ability to do. But that's what I thought I wanted to do, and it wasn't until really after I kind of started to explore it, and I thought, okay, that's not for me. Sometimes we're not going to get everything right the first time round, and getting things wrong isn't a bad thing. Because actually
it's part of the learning process. Isn't
it's
it?
part of, you learn as much from our mistakes as we do from our wins.
That's true.
And to really appreciate the highs, you've got to have had the lows. Because if you're going for a constant win, you actually don't value those wins as much. So sometimes when you've gone through those hard times, those losses, just those hard days or those bad results, when those wins come, if you pick yourself up and go, when those wins come, you really, really, really love and enjoy those wins, which is a good a learning experience as anything, really.
Cool. Thank you very much. So if anyone is interested in finding out a little bit more about Royston and what he does, please check the description below in the video, and please stay tuned for the next episode of our podcast.